them waive their rights so the IRS can take their bank accounts. And that's what it's for. And that's it. And all you Obama people, he'll be, into the next election, the 2014 election, by the time the screw job hits you. So until then, they're telling you there is no $5,000 tax, even though it's in the law and they hired the 17,000 agents and it's going forward. Now, shifting gears to some really exciting news, Dr. Edward Group is our guest. He's one of the top supplement developers in the country, and he's also a very articulate, super uber informed person, and I won't go over all of his laurels, but he's a doctor of chiropractic from Texas Chiropractic College, diplomat of the American Clinical Board of Nutrition, he's a nutritionist, diplomat of the American Board of Functional Medicine, diplomat of the Chiropractic Board of Clinical Nutrition, naturopathic physician, certified clinical nutritionist, holistic health practitioner, certified clinical herbalist, alternative medical practitioner, works in major hospitals, MD Anderson, you name it, down in Houston. So I mean, he's a prestigious guy. And, my dad's an oral surgeon and a dentist and also has one of his degrees in biology. And he's amazed at how much Group knows because my dad now works with us. He's developed stuff that's been approved by the FDA on the pharmacological side, but from herbs. And he's come to work with us at InfoWarsLife.com. And we will be talking about some InfoWars Life products, probably 5 minutes in the next hour because we're going 20 minutes into overdrive. The main reason he's here is because he's so knowledgeable on just a host of issues. And so this is the report he wrote. I wrote a whole article for us about what he wants to cover today, and I'm going to try to let him get into it all. Geoengineering, covert bioengineering through the food supply, which is now admitted, toxins in the air, tobacco smoke, VOCs, mold, mildew, dust mites, and pet dander, some of the big killers out there. And the reason the lung problems are going from, number 10 in the cause of death to number 8, now to an even higher level. We're going to get to that in a moment. Shocking facts about toxic air. We're going to get into just the whole laundry list because I've been talking to him on the phone. So he said, let's just do a show about this. I'm like, everybody I know is having respiratory problems. And I have family dying from it. 2 people, my uncle and my cousin, who were very healthy. My uncle especially. Great health. Better shape than I was at 68. And I'm 40. And people I know that the hospitals are full of respiratory problems all over the country and the deaths. And it's in the news that the drugs aren't working anymore. The big pharma drugs aren't working. And so obviously in the middle of that, Weldon Henson, we ought to later in the first 20 minutes of the next hour, drag Weldon, if he'll do it in here, and get him to tell me the story he told me last week. This stuff hides in plain view, Dr. Group. We're going to skip this network break. Hides in plain view that Weldon's like, yeah, I went to the VA, put me on 2 different things, antibiotics. I couldn't get rid of this, this strep in my lungs. That's what it is, killing everybody, bacteria. He said, I drank a half bottle of this, and you were correcting me. I just want to correct this before we get into the whole lung thing. I'm just saying, we put on the bottle, nobody else does with colloidal silver. We did. We put on the bottle, do not use regularly. Because, it is basically like a metal-based antibiotic, where they used to put it in the milk jugs for the babies. They used to put it in the milk jugs, the pioneers, the silver dollars. They put it on the baby's stomach when they're born. And the old-timers just knew for thousands of years, silver is a way to not get infected and die. They didn't know what was doing it. They just knew it was doing something. Now you go to hospitals, they're using this type of stuff. We got the lab that is the strongest in the country, and they said this is it's the 3rd biggest maker in the country, that we had private label, what I labeled Silver Bullet, the InfoWarsLife.com product. And this is the strongest batch they've ever made, because we made a huge batch. Well, it took a bunch of batches to make it. And it is as strong as it gets. We've got all the numbers up on InfoWarsLife.com. But you were correcting me. I mean, obviously, if you drink enough colloidal silver with the wrong stuff in it, it can precipitate out a little bit of blue in your nose and things. But you were explaining to me that is mass loads of it before that happens. I'm just... Obviously, if you're going to end up dying from not having the right antibiotics or being sick, anything's good. But silver, we're going to skip this network break, network. We're going to skip this network break. Thank you. But Dr. Group, explain to me colloidal silver and this particular type from InfoWarsLife.com. Then I want to get into the geoengineering, the bioengineering, the toxins in the air, all of it.
Well, colloidal silver is an amazing antimicrobial compound. It's been used for a long time, like you said. And the difference is really on how you make the silver. I mean, if you make it with tap water, let's say, if there's any salts in the water, you can end up with silver nitrates or silver nitrates. And that's the classic blue man that you see that was being interviewed all over the media and everything.
So it combines with things that creates like a rust.
Yeah, you would have to, if you do silver right, I mean, I've drank half a gallon of silver done, like a 10 parts per million silver, for probably 10, 15 days. I mean,
this is 30 parts per million.
Yeah, that's 30 parts per million. So, I mean, now they have silver all the way up to 200 parts per million, but really in the studies, they say that anywhere from 10 to 30 parts per million is going to be a really good amount to take. You know, but how safe is silver? I mean, it's great to use on skin.
Well, I mean, Henson went into the VA, and it wasn't helping him, 2 different antibiotics, and he drank a half bottle of this, knocked it out.
Right. When we were seeing patients with all different types of, you know, microbial infestations and all different kinds of things, we would use silver and have them sometimes drink 16 ounces a day, 16 ounces a day for 7 days and then back it off. So,
but that's under doctor's care. That's under doctor's care, though. We're not telling folks to do that.
That's under doctor's care. And I mean, that's, you know, obviously in a situation you want to get advice from your... So
that wasn't even a lot, Weldon, drinking half a bottle?
What I'm saying is it's complete, if it's done correctly, it's completely safe to use. I mean, and the guy actually has come out and they've proved that he did that on purpose for media attention, and he turned himself blue, and he produced the silver the wrong way, and he drank, I think, 32 ounces to 64 ounces of the wrong type of silver every single day. There's been a big push against silver, too, for years and years and years, the government trying to shut down anybody that's producing silver because they know how effective it is.
Man with blue skin dies at 62. Unlikely his condition was responsible, LA Times.
Yeah, I didn't even know he died, but it doesn't surprise me. But anyway, it's completely safe to take. It's one of the things that I highly recommend. I mean, I've had it for years. As a matter of fact, the FDA came in my office and raided my office years ago, and that's one of the things they made me get rid of. And they literally told me, one of the reasons we raided your office is because you're selling and promoting colloidal silver. I mean, it was one of the things that was targeted by the FDA because it was a threat to the pharmaceutical companies and the threat for doctors' visits because it worked so good in the body. And
well, all I know is if the antibiotics stop working, I mean, what am I going to give my kids? I mean,
right. That's why silver, iodine. I mean, iodine is non-resistant. You could take any virus, any bacteria, any organism that's harmful to the body, and it's non-resistant to iodine. It's non-resistant to silver, too. At least I've never heard of any organism being resistant, developing resistance to iodine.
How much colloidal silver do you take?
If I get sick, I'll drink 16 ounces, either 8 to 16 ounces a day for at least the first 3 days. But I tell you what else I do. If I have a respiratory
But that's at 10 parts per million.
That's at 10 parts per million, yes.
At 30 parts per million, then what would you do, 20 ounces?
Probably.
10 ounces, 5 ounces?
You know, even 8 ounces. You know, another good thing with silver is it's safe for children to take, too. I mean, you don't want to give – a lot of times they put children on these antibiotics. I mean, like what we're going to be talking about today is the respiratory illnesses, the fact that respiratory disease and respiratory death has gone from the eighth leading cause of death now to the 3rd leading cause of death.
Well, I'm getting where I'm obsessed with this because it's killing people I know. Everybody's sick with it. The antibiotics aren't working.
Right. Well, because they're spraying all the stuff in the air, number one, and then people are living in toxic homes and they're working in toxic environments, and their immune system is already overloaded with all the amount of toxins in the food and the drinks that they're taking that it's just, you're just one breath away from having some sort of a respiratory illness. But I was going to tell your listeners also that what I used to do that works really good is also you can nebulize silver and actually breathe it right into the lungs, and it's actually safe to do as well.
We have a sponsor, the folks that do that, the silver lungs, where the people inhale it.
Lungs.
And, of course, we have one here at the office, and I've got one at home, but Rob Dew just swears by it.
Yeah, I mean, right now with what they're putting in the air and with the when you look at the aluminum nanoparticles, that they're aerolizing all the stuff that's going in the chemtrails now. They're finding all different types of E. coli. They're finding blood cells in there. They're finding all different types of components.
Yeah, I've seen that in the news where they're finding that, and the soil's getting to be heavy aluminum.
Yeah, well, listen to this. 200 species, living species right now, are going extinct every single day. It's not in the news. Nobody knows about it. The only reason I know about it is because I work with since we have an organic farm, we're losing trees everywhere. Plants are dying everywhere.
Oh, I know.
200 species a day. It's a 100,000% increase since they started geoengineering and weather modification and dumping aluminum.
And they admit they're doing it, just the details are classified. And the general public, people say, hey, Sports Center's on. I'm like, there's a giant secret project spraying us.
Right. All over the world. I mean, look at the satellite maps. You're seeing all these chemtrails being sprayed everywhere.
NASA admits the Earth is now, was 30% darker from persistent contrails. Well, you'll see one plane that isn't spraying, doesn't stay. One right by it leaves it. It's being added to the jet fuel. The companies don't even know. It's literally being aerosolized out of the jet engines.
When you take in nanoparticles of aluminum and it was in an aerosol state in the air and you breathe it through your nose, it's been studied and documented that it goes along the olfactory nerve and it gets deposited in two parts of the brain, the memory part of the brain and the emotional part of the brain. Now, if you take a child whose brain is just, you know, they don't have a lot of bones, they don't have a lot of the mucous membrane set up yet, and you put high levels of nanoparticles of aluminum, and not only that, barium and strontium and all the other crap that they're putting in, spraying on us, what do you think happens to that child? Well, if it goes into the memory part of the brain and the emotional part of the brain, it dumbs you down. And not only that, guess what? It goes to the emotional part of the brain, which gives you symptoms of ADD, ADHD, autism, depression, anxiety. So they can then diagnose you with the psychotropic drugs that they're doing testing now on.
And by the way, even Time Magazine a month ago came out and admitted that children are becoming brain damaged and lower IQs, and they listed environmental toxins, chief among them fluoride. They admitted and had the Harvard study in Time. How did that get out?
Well, what happens is, talking about us breathing all this stuff in is what you mentioned, all this aluminum and all these particles are going onto the ground and killing all the plants, because plants have a mechanism, especially trees, where they protect their own DNA. So if they sense high levels of aluminum in the soil, they will stop sucking up the nutrients. They will literally kill themselves because they don't want to damage the whole history and the lineage. Now, what they're doing is they're blaming all these tree deaths on the beetles and all that stuff. Well, of course, the beetles are going to attack the trees if the trees have no immune system left. If the trees have an immune system, then they secrete natural compounds from the trees to prevent insect damage. But with the spray, with all the GMOs, all the Roundup, all the other stuff, and all the chemicals, and the high levels of aluminum in the soil, the trees are creating self-death.
Well, that's like oak wilt all over Central Texas killing the beautiful oaks. That oak wilt's always been there. It's killing everything now. And people out like in Fredericksburg, now all the trees are basically dying. But in East Texas, the pine trees are dying in the middle of nowhere. And all the farmers are like, the crops don't grow anymore. But don't worry, Monsanto's coming out with aluminum-resistant crops. There'll be no discussion of why is there more aluminum, no discussion of why is there more breast cancer. We'll just find a treatment for breast cancer, or we'll find a crop that can grow in aluminum.
And all the mercury that's being released into the air, the mercury vapors and the mercury that's coming over here from China.
That's right. Our power plants don't release the mercury. They're being shut down. The jet stream directly from China dumps in over Texas.
That's right. And when you mix mercury and aluminum together, it causes violent reactions in the brain. So, I mean, it's just another reason why that you need to, it's another area that you need to look at is respiratory. I mean, allergies are through the roof. Asthma is through the roof.
My grandmother is from Texas, obviously, but lived in Austin, never had allergies, has horrible ones now.
Well, the thing is, too,
I mean, you're not supposed to develop allergies when you're 89 years old.
No, and look at all the kids that have allergies and asthma. I mean, kids are dying and people are dying because they're taking their, it's another reason why inhalers, they try to put inhalers on you, which have steroids in them, which automatically decrease your immune system by 50%. But more people are dying now because they don't have their inhalers with them. 10-year-old girls, 13-year-old girls, little kids, they're out in the, at the mall somewhere. They forget the inhaler.
And no one's asking, why is everybody dying? And why has it gone from number 8 cause of death to number 3? No discussion why breast cancer is up multi-thousand percentage points. No discussion, because they're killing us, folks. They're killing us by design. And then meanwhile, don't want you to have colloidal silver. And, I'm sorry, folks. I'm going to have colloidal silver. I'm going to use it. And we'll see if we can drag Weldon in here. But I want to get into your points. You've got this big report here.
They don't know, they don't want people to know how to protect their respiratory system.
I want to come back with Dr. Gribben and talk about bioengineering, not just geoengineering.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.